Sorry, honey. We can't afford that this week. I'll try to save more.
Got the top gone and the gold chain swinging. Pockets stay deep like the beat I'm bringing. Rolling with the hurt, yeah, the ghost stay blinging. Sun in my face while the bassline singing.
Rob, thank you so much for being on the program, man. This is a wonderful turnabout, and for doing this report. Welcome.
Benny, glad to be here. This was, by the way, Monday night when we did this. So this was, talk about the third rail. It's like part of the conversation now. Sunday going into Monday, I talked to my team. I said, this is it. And they said, I don't know. We don't really see it. I said, this is a gift. Democrats have shut the government down now, 13 times. This is an ancillary benefit to a Democrat government shutdown because I wasn't aware of this. 42 million people, as you said, not Americans. These aren't Americans. 48.5% are illegal aliens, meaning they came here illegally, and now they are illegally collecting food stamps. It's not SNAP. It's not stamp. This is, Democrats do this. They change the language. Sex change surgeries, gender affirming care. The unhoused, now homeless. Your master bedroom is now the primary bedroom, and SNAP is food stamps. Illegal aliens are dreamers or undocumented neighbors. This is what Democrats do. And I completely agree. Once the government reopens, and I've been in touch with people at the White House, and they don't want to do it because it's not popular. But look, every illegal alien collecting food stamps needs to no longer be collecting food stamps. Everyone should be forced to reapply as soon as the shutdown comes to an end.
I think that would immediately solve a lot of problems because you should be forced to reapply with a social security number. And if you don't have one of those, you can't get government goodies. It doesn't work, Rob, if no one's paying into the system. It will collapse. By nature, it's going to implode in on itself. These people didn't pay into the system. Their grandparents didn't pay into the systems. They don't often pay taxes at all. Where's the money ever going to come from?
Yeah, it's over $100 billion a year that it's costing the U.S. taxpayers. That's a conservative estimate, by the way. My mother, I asked her if I could share this story, but my parents got divorced 1990, and my dad, we're friends now. We're great friends. He actually spends the holidays with us, and my mom and he are close again. My mom's remarried, but they got divorced 1990. I'm one of four, and my mom was on food stamps for like 9 months. She hadn't worked in 20 years. She was a stay-at-home mom. She put herself back through nursing school. She graduated from Boston College in the 70s, but wasn't planning on working after being a school teacher for years. So we were on food stamps. And I can remember being 8 years old at the grocery store and being embarrassed for my mom. I didn't know what it was, but guess what? She pulled herself up. She got a job. She worked 2 jobs at one point, and in less than a year's time, she was off food stamps and was never on food stamps again. Back then, they were food stamps. It was embarrassing for her. It was embarrassing for us as a family. Neighbors made fun of us at the bus stop. I don't know how they knew, but somehow they knew. Small town. Look, food stamps, it was invented by another Democrat, FDR, late 1930s. Took him almost a decade after getting elected to come up with this program. But it was basically to help people, Americans, who were struggling. And that was just post-Great Depression. And it was always designed to be temporary. It was never designed for illegal aliens. It was never designed for many people our age that are collecting, to your point, getting ice cream and getting candy and ultra processed food, or sending that money back home, or sending the food back home. It was never designed for that. And these people are totally full of you-know-what, claiming they can't go out and get a job. I'm sorry, but if you go to a grocery store, Benny, I'm sure you do well. And I know you've got a wonderful family, but you look at the price when you go to the grocery store and you're like, well, maybe I won't get that steak tonight, or I won't get that, because you are working hard for that money. Look at the grocery cart of somebody who's getting $350 a month from the government. It's totally packed to the brim. That's a problem. That has to stop.
Yeah, listen, man, I got 4 kids. It gets expensive to feed them. My wife posts the meal that she cooks almost nightly on her Instagram.
Right.
It's often ground beef and rice. It's
Right.
Ground beef, rice, chicken, vegetables. Like, that's what's
Right.
being eaten in my household. The luxuries that are available on SNAP. How is this possible, Rob? We put up on the show, but we have some examples here. Caviar, lobster tails, a ribeye, $27 a pound. Here's a $1,000 bag of truffle salt. I don't really even know what that is.
No, I don't
but
know
it
either.
sounds very expensive, and it's available on EBT and SNAP. Who's policing this, Rob?
It's all, this is Democrats, and it's decades of bad policies that are now being exposed. If the government didn't shut down, this is a blessing in disguise. Blessings always come in disguise. We would not be aware of this, that 42 million people, and we wouldn't be aware of the numbers. We are now, and this is a problem for Democrats. This is a secret they did not want exposed. But when you've got a grift like this going, think about it like this, Benny. These people, we've got illegal aliens who are criminals. It's a federal crime to cross the border. Then there are criminal illegal aliens, and 2 million have been deported or have self-deported since Donald Trump got elected. And now we've got people, 48.5%, that are here illegally, that are illegally stealing from the American people. And the pearl clutching, like, oh, babies are going to starve. Well, look, maybe that will de-incentivize people from breaking into our country. Okay, don't give me that whole babies are going to starve. That is such BS. Have you seen these people on TikTok? They're not going to starve. Not short term, not long term.
It's interesting that you bring that up, Rob, because a lot of these companies were acquired when the American government started cracking down on cigarette companies. And Philip Morris and some of the larger cigarette companies began to experiment with extremely addictive, ultra-processed foods and began slowly seeding that into the American diet, using some of the same chemicals and using some of the same addictive elements and addictive, mouthfeel and everything like that. The same thing as a cigarette, right? And they did that through junk food. And they worked in laboratories, just like they did with cigarettes, in order to make them as addictive as possible. And the crash out, by extension, for these people seems to be almost like you're taking a drug away from them. You're taking away their drug of choice. And that's why you see so many ultra-processed foods inside of these programs, because it is a massive carve-out, a massive giveaway to some of the most evil companies on earth, right? To some of the biggest companies on earth, companies and corporations that can stand on their own 2 feet, that are have an enormous amount of revenue from these programs. It really is a massive subsidy, isn't it, to just Walmart, Kraft Foods, and some of the larger food manufacturers in our nation. That's what this ends up being.
Yeah, dollar store as well. And this has gone on for a long time. It happens in the pharmaceutical industry. Think about 1958, the CDC came out and said that cigarettes don't cause cancer. Doctors were advising patients to, instead of taking medicine, if they were anxious, or today we'd call it anxiety, they said, why don't you try smoking? It seems to help with that. You think about the vaccines, the CDC told us in 2021, after Operation Warp Speed, that these were totally safe, that not only would they prevent you from getting COVID, but that once you got vaccinated, you'd never have to worry about it again. They're always lying to us. In fact, I've found that we are being lied to more often than not. You've heard this a million times, particularly since Trump got elected. We need new conspiracy theories because the old ones keep coming true. That's true. That keeps happening. This is all a grift. And people, Benny, 42 million people, 20 million at least, that are not citizens of this country are getting food stamps, are collecting money, not from the government, from the taxpayer on a monthly basis.
Maybe we should talk solutions here quickly. How do you fix this? I mean, my thought is shut it all down, force everyone to reapply with American citizenship, crack down on what is, I assume it'd have to go through the Department of Agriculture, potentially HHS, but crack down on what is available on these programs. You want to see, take the junk food off, and you'll see the number of people applying for these programs collapse, force them to cook their own food.
Right.
How do you fix something like this, Rob?
Well, HHS did write the program was designed by the early version of HHS under FDR. So it would be Department of Ag and HHS now. Put it this way, bad example, but maybe a great example. They forced people like sheep to get in line and take vaccines. And within 2 months, something like 67% of the country was vaccinated. An absurd, hundreds of millions of people in this country in a short amount of time. You have to do the same thing here. You're talking about 42 million people. You can federalize it. You don't leave it up to the states. I called my mother because she was like, well, I don't know if I want that story, shared. I was like, Mom, it's nothing to be ashamed of. We went through something and look at you now. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. That's what it was designed for. But she was vetted. And I asked her about this. They weren't just like, okay, here's your booklet. They mailed it to you at that time. And they literally were like little pull-out stamps. She was vetted. They needed all sorts of documentation. And I'm thinking to myself, how are people doing this now? Where is the vetting process? Seriously, where is the vetting process? It's like voter ID. This should be easy. It's 42 million people, but anybody that's undocumented, I don't care if you've got small children, I don't care what the situation is, you are breaking the law. And it should be as simple as that. And that should not be controversial to say.
Yes. Okay, so breaking the law, really quickly, the response here has been, well, if you cut our benefits, we're going to riot and we're going to loot the stores. But, you know, not in my personal experience, but I have been I don't typically riot on the weekends, Rob. Right. Got other things to do, but, yes. But actually, some Saturday mornings in my household could be considered a riot based on the results.
It is a riot, but yes. You are not taking part in a riot. Yes, same here.
It's very strenuous physical activity, rioting and looting. If you're able to do that, aren't you able to work?
That's such a good point. You know, the average age of the American citizen that is currently connecting SNAP is under 40. Under 40 is the average age of the American citizen. Aren't you able to work? All of the videos that you see online of people that are like, if we don't, you know, get our benefits Saturday, you know, just watch out, lock your doors, lock your cars, dollar store, Walmart, we're coming for you. You know, these people are this is anecdotal, of course, but these people are young in these videos that I see. Do some people require SNAP benefits? Absolutely. That's why the program exists. And I think that should be something that is for people that really are in need. But when you talk about the rioting, Benny, look, if there's rioting this weekend because people don't get their SNAP benefits, that's going to help two people in particular. One is Jack Ciattarelli, and the other is Winsome Sears in Virginia, the Republican candidates running for governor in both those states. Maybe it'll help Curtis Sliwa or Andrew Cuomo in New York City. I doubt it. I think New York City is going to get exactly what it deserves. But short term, I think that people are going to wake up and say, wait a second, you look at the polling, people blame the shutdown on Democrats. So shouldn't they blame this whole not getting their food stamps on Saturday on Democrats as well? You would think.
I would think. I mean, that I know it is anecdotal, but I did live in and this is so different between, you know, from the story that you just shared about your mother. And I guess maybe this is just the final story I'd like to share about the experience I had with SNAP and WIC and food stamps. And I lived in literally the hood in Washington, D.C. It's all we could afford. It was our first house. It was, I guess you could call it a gentrifying neighborhood, but it wasn't, right? It was all Section 8 housing. We were the only people that bought our house on the block. The only people, right? And so I got a chance to like watch and observe the culture of Section 8 and government dependency very close. You know, for 5 straight years, I was able to sit and watch and observe. Some of these people were very lovely. They were very nice, and I have fond stories and some pretty warm memories, actually. But what I observed, Rob, was this, that it was multi-generational, that no one worked because there was a system that was grandfathered literally from like their grandparents from the civil rights era, grandfathered in, and this was in Capitol Hill, this is in Washington, D.C.
Right. And
you're talking about 3 generations of people who've never paid for groceries, Rob. Like, this is a totally different America. This is a subsection of America, a population of America, wholly and completely alien, not in the sense of a criminal alien, but in the sense of like, you don't even understand the deep DNA level, like, entitlement that comes with these neighborhoods and with these populations. It is almost aristocratic. And that's what's so insane about this. It is almost as though you were like born into landed aristocracy, never had to work. You're always going to have a house. You're always going to have food. You're going to be able to live a life of luxury, meaning you never have to exert yourself ever. You can go just do whatever you want. And you never have to pay taxes. And it is almost like an inversion of an aristocracy. And it was incredible to see it up close. And the entitlement that came with it was also like the entitlement of a princeling, right? It was remarkable. And I saw it up close and I'm like, man, something has to be done. Because what happens is it parasitically grows. Like, people see that like working at 7-Eleven is hard. And why do that? when just the guy at the end of the block and has never had to work, his kids will never have to work, his granddad never had to work, and that just becomes like generational.
And then you think about just what my mother, just the embarrassment. She was embarrassed, and as an 8-year-old, I could sense that. Completely different. Benny, the number has never been, it's a little more than 1 in 7 right now in this country, adults over 18 that are on food stamps. It was higher right after the Great Recession, like 2009, 2010, I think the number was 47 million. But even when the program was started, it was never that high a number. It was never 1 in 7, 1 in 8. That's a remarkable number. That means that 1 in 8 people, adults over 18 that you see today, are collecting food stamps. And somehow we all think this is normal. And to your point, it's in some parts of this country, in some communities, it is a generational expectation.
Yeah.
That's a major problem. That's not the American dream.
No. And I think that it's a much longer conversation about like what must be done to ensure that the American dream is achievable and attainable. And of course, that would mean focusing on Americans and America in order to fix our problems, not Israel or Ukraine or whatever. But that's the hard work that has to be done. And that's the vision casting. If people won't buy into the American dream, if it's not actually explained to them and if it's not attainable, people will actually crash out and just spiral into nihilism. And so I think that needs to be something that like the party works on closely. So anyway, Rob, it's been wonderful having you on the program, and awesome to be able to see you on this side of the camera.
Yeah.
Rob's on Newsmax every single night. Finnerty is the name of the show. And again, it just went absolutely thermonuclear viral this week by being one of the only men in cable TV to have the temerity and bravery to actually talk about this issue.
Look, we're not going to be afraid, Benny. We're not going to be afraid. It might not be popular, but authenticity is what keeps you in this business. And as soon as I saw that Sunday, I was like, guys, this is it. This is the story this week, and it has been. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes. Godspeed. Everybody follow Rob here. 50,000 Americans follow his X feed and watch him on Newsmax. Godspeed, man.